Hello, good afternoon. Good evening now. I don't hear you. Are we present here today? Good evening?
Good evening.
Hey, students at the back, how y'all doing? No, how are you guys doing? Come on. Hey, good. Can we get a welcome to our speaker here this evening? Yeah. Okay. So, my name's Elijah O'Sullivan. I'll just give a word of prayer before we begin this evening, okay? Let's wait for our friends to come in. And yeah, let's bow our heads in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you that you are so good. Thank you that you have allowed us to be here all gathered today. Father, we know that the finals are coming near this coming week, and you might be feeling a little bit stressed, Father, but may this hour that we're here learn something new. Also, I pray that you will fasten our seats and also make those students that are coming come here faster, Father. And yeah, may we just be able to learn and implement the things that we learned today. I pray that you'll be with the speaker also, that he may deliver the words. And all these things I pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, thanks. Good evening. My name is Danae Brisson. If you don't know me, I am the instructor for accounting and tax in our School of Business here. And I would just like to introduce our speaker to you. Peter has been an instrumental business person in Lacombe for many years. He owns Edge Marketing, and he has run his own business as well as helped many other businesses as well. He has been a great help in our School of Business. He sits on our Business Advisory Board, and he is involved with all of our goings-on with the Small Business Center, all of the events that we put on, like the Small Business Week event that we did in October. So thank you, Peter, for blessing us with your wisdom and knowledge. The time is yours.
I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was raised on a farm, a small dairy farm in the Netherlands, and I was brought up with independence instilled in us from a very young age. So my dad, he was a small farmer, and he had a lot of savings. And the neat thing is about this evening is I have a few people that are going to fact check me, because I have my wife Liddy here, and she knows a little bit of the story, but more importantly, my brother John, all the way from Millet, came this evening to fact check me. So thanks John and Brenda for coming out here. Give them a hand here, that's great. So my father was a real inspiration for me from a very young age. And one of his sayings was, it's better to steer your small ship than to row somebody else's boat. Now, of course, the saying was different, but I could not find no way to translate what he actually said. But it's kind of, it talks about his wish for us as kids, 8 kids, to be independent and to actually do something with our lives. Now, so from a young age, I was indoctrinated with this, work for yourself, be your own boss. Don't work for a large company, but it's better to be a small independent. So they say that the worldview, that the way you look at the world, is kind of established by the time you're 18. And I totally believe that. I think after that you just kind of get stuck in a certain way of looking at the world. So my worldview was kind of developed in those early years. Now, for the young people here, you probably would agree with me that when you're 18 years old, and Mark, maybe you can, my son Mark is here too, by the way, so great Mark. So, when you're 18 years old, your dad doesn't know very much, right? That was the same. that was the same for me. Like, he would give me all kinds of bad advice, like you gotta, don't stay out too late, work hard, do something with your life, all that kind of stuff, right? But when I was 27, and I was about to make the biggest decision that I made in my life, actually to leave the country and go somewhere else, I was absolutely amazed how much he had learned in those 9 years. So I was a bit of a dreamer. I was not much of a farmer, so that's probably why farming was never really on my radar. By the way, my siblings had taken over the farm by that time anyway, so that was not really an option. I was a dreamer. I would build airplanes. I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to build airplanes. Actually, I have built a few, and I tried to fly with them. I don't think I got off the ground very much. But so what do you do with the dreamer that's not a farmer? You send him to college. So my parents told me, Peter, you're smart, you go to school, learn something and see where it leads you. So I did. I went to agricultural college for 4 years for my first degree, with a specialization in business. So that already kind of set me up for the rest of my life, because I had a keen interest in business and entrepreneurship, and again, being your own boss. So after college, I had to go into mandatory military service. And now, if you look at the picture on the screen there, those 2 duffel bags, I never returned them back to where they should have gone. We've used them to move here at some point. I was released early. After I was supposed to be in there for 16 months, I was released after 14 months. Now, not because I did something really stupid or I was let go. I actually got my first job as an account manager / salesperson for a software company. Now, this was in the early 90s, so this was the early days of computers. And I learned an awful lot from that first job. Like, I learned things like rejection. You know, I was very green. I just came out of school and I was told by the company, this is your area, go and sell our stuff, basically. So very little onboarding. And that was hard, but I learned an awful lot. And I still think back of those years often. But fairly soon, after a couple of years, I kind of realized that working for a large corporation or a medium-sized corporation was not really for me. So I felt I was kind of a small cog in a very big machine, and I kind of didn't feel like that was my future. So I started to look elsewhere. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was told I should probably find something that you can be independent in, because that's the way I was brought up. So but I didn't know how to start. So maybe some of you here, some of you are still in college or university, I should say, right now. So you may be making plans for your future. So maybe being an entrepreneur is part of your future, right? I want to encourage you to kind of think about that. There's more in life than just working for a large corporation and have a career that way. But it's so hard to take the first step. So I'm going to talk about a few things that have helped me to kind of get moving and actually take that very important first step. Again, farming was out of the question, so I had to do something else. So in 1993, and this picture was taken in 1993 behind the house of my parents. This was the day that we left. As you can see, I haven't aged at all. I was wearing a tie to go on an airplane. I have no idea why you would do that, but I guess I felt that was important. And this were our belongings, 2 suitcases and 2 duffel bags. Now, to be sure, I can guarantee you there was no $100 bills in those suitcases, okay? They were just our personal belongings. So this was basically everything we had. So we ended up in working for one of my relatives, my uncle in Williams Lake, BC. He ran a tire store and gas stations. So in the matter of a day or so, like when we left and a couple of days later, I was working in a tire store, changing tires and big logging trucks, something I've absolutely never done before. I learned a lot of new English words that I didn't know before, so that was helpful as well. And Liddy, my wife, she was actually working as a petroleum transfer technician. Was that the official title? Yeah, she was pumping gas in one of those gas stations. So that was our first start, and after a year we kind of left the tire business. We ended up in Alberta. I replied to a job posting for a farmhand in Lacombe, at a dairy farm here. We didn't know where Lacombe was. People in Williams Lake, the place that we lived, made fun of us going to a small town like Lacombe. So they said the town only has 1 postal code. Are you sure you want to go there? But yeah, we worked on a dairy farm here for about a year. And there again, too, I wasn't really, that was not my destiny. And maybe, John, you've done very well with farming, but I don't know if it was for me. So I had to figure something else out. So the first business I started was a sign manufacturing business. It's still operational. Lacombe Sign Masters on the east side of town. So again, we started that business with basically nothing, just by learning and going out there and talking to people. We've entered into real estate. We bought some real estate over the years, some commercial buildings, some residential buildings, when real estate was still relatively inexpensive. And right now I own a small marketing agency, Edge Marketing and Design. So we can honestly say that we are living the entrepreneurial dream in the end. So we're very thankful. So why do I tell this story? If you have any, if in this room, if there's anybody that has entrepreneurial aspirations, I want to kind of illustrate that, you know, it doesn't come easy always, right? We had to go through quite a few hurdles to get where we are right now. And I think that's very typical for a lot of people. So if you are on an entrepreneurial journey and something comes up and doesn't go right the first time, don't give up and just keep going. A couple of quotes that I would like to share, like I really like this one. The secret of getting ahead is getting started by Mark Twain. It's so true, right? So simple, but that's really was for me the biggest hurdle to actually get started and do something, and that may be the same for you. This one is a good one too. It's from Winston Churchill. Never give up on something that you can't go a day without thinking about. This is actually printed up in our boardroom at Edge. I love that quote because I think a lot of people have this tiny little voice in their head. They have this idea, but they just never do anything with it. So again, I want to encourage you, the audience, to actually think that through and actually do something with it. So I could talk about a lot of different things when it comes to entrepreneurship, but I want to focus this on 3 different things. Ideas that I have kind of lived through. So I want to share them with you. The first one is starting before you are ready. It's really important that we just don't sit back and wait and make it so perfect before we actually announce it to the world, and that's typical for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Then the second one is embracing failure. Failure is, we're afraid of failure. I'm afraid of failure. Maybe you are too. But as an entrepreneur, we actually have to embrace it some days and learn from it and get better because of it, and then just move on. And the third point I want to make is about finding your why. Everybody good so far? So don't wait for the perfect conditions to start your business. Share your ideas early with other people. So just by show of hands, is anybody in here actually, and I know there's a couple entrepreneurs, business owners in here, anybody that has entrepreneurial dreams or aspirations to maybe in retirement or right after college to actually do something like that? Yeah, a lot of you. Be honest. Yeah, okay. Few hesitant hands go up here, so that's cool. Yeah, so I think it's very important to. To start to people. Like when I started my first business, the sign business, I was brand new to Lacombe. We only had lived here for about 1.5 years. And I just got this idea. I kind of picked it up when I was in Williams Lake working for my uncle. But signage, graphics and signs. So something to do with advertising, something to do with business. And I could really kind of see that would be a good fit for me because I'm kind of a creative person. I like to create things. I like graphics and some of those things. So that all kind of lined up. So the very first, it's probably the very first month that we were in business, I was joining the Chamber of Commerce, of course. And I still remember that very first meeting at Lito's with the Chamber. And I got 5 minutes to do a little pitch about my business. And I was super nervous about it, but again, I had the experience from sales that I could actually stand up and talk to somebody, so it wasn't too bad. But after that first, that networking event that I attended, the connections I made, and then of course over the years I've expanded that has really helped me a lot in business. So yes, I run a marketing business that we help people advertise their businesses, but networking is actually probably the number one reason why some small businesses survive. So you have to learn how to network. And if you have a new idea or a new business, make sure that you tell other people about it. Now the other thing is don't overanalyze things. I mean, I'm a perfectionist in some ways. Maybe my wife would disagree with this, but I tend to work too long and too hard on certain things that are not super important. So don't do that. If you have an idea, you feel good about it, you talk to people about it, and you validate your idea and make sure that people are interested in it. Go for it. Right? That's what we did with our first business. So I just bought some equipment. I didn't know much about the business, but I learned, I networked, I phoned around, and yeah, we started making our first sales, which was very important, very exciting. I was looking for my very first invoice, actually. I couldn't find it, but it was $10.70. I think GST was 7% back in the day, so it was $10 for a local realtor, and we were so super excited that that he would trust us enough to actually put in that order. So the other thing, make your first sale. So like I mentioned earlier, I worked for this software company, and the owner of the company, he was a mentor for me back in the day. He was a great business person, also a great entrepreneur. So the legend is that the way he started his software company, instead of just sitting down behind a computer, and yes, they had computers back in those days already. It looked kind of like this. Instead of sitting down behind a computer, he would actually go to a couple prospective clients, and he was selling software for feed mills, animal nutrition. Not exactly sure how he got into that market. I think his family was in farming, but he went around to some of those companies, and he used a typewriter. You guys still know what a typewriter is, more or less. He actually, on a typewriter, he would type a report, and he took that report to a couple of these companies and say, hey, if my software prints off this report, would you guys buy it? And apparently about three companies or so said, yeah, absolutely. If you can do this, that's amazing. That's going to save us an awful lot of time. So then he went like, okay, great. Now what? Now I'm actually have to start developing this program. And thankfully he had a partner or a buddy that actually could program already. So they got it done. He started programming this management program that printed this report. And I oftentimes think back about the story, because so many times we try to perfect our offer, our service, but he completely reversed it. He sold it first, and then he started building it. So that's actually really, I feel that's a really good strategy. Of course, it doesn't work for every business, but if you have a small business and you start something, you could try to make a sale, because if you can make a sale, somebody's actually willing to pay you money for something. That means that you're solving a problem that's worth solving. So I always think about that. Anybody know this brand anymore? Wang? No. Eric, do you still know this? Back in the day, right? So yeah, another quote from Reid Hoffman. He's one of the co-founders of LinkedIn, and he says, like, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. So in other words, get it out there. Make sure that other people know what you're doing. I see this so many times that people just do all these things in secret, and I don't think it's a good idea. Another really great quote about getting started: version 1 is better than version none. Right? Like, how many times have we had an idea we actually never realized it? So my encouragement to you is just go for it and then start building something that you believe in, and then see how it goes from there. You can always pivot, you can always change later. Okay, so we talked about how important it is to actually get started, and before you're basically ready to go. So now I want to talk about my second point, which is how can you embrace failure? Failure is natural, and as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and there's a few in the room here, we know that we're going to fail in some aspect. But instead of getting discouraged about it, how can we actually learn from these failures? So one really product, and I'll have a little bit of a prop here. Does anybody know what these are? Post-it notes. Oop. Here, just. Somebody tried to do this with golf balls, and that didn't really work out very well. These are post-it notes. So the story behind Post-it notes, like I've heard the story like a very long time ago. A developer or a scientist at the 3M Corporation in Minnesota, he was tasked, his name was Spencer Silver, and he was tasked with developing a super strong glue that could be used for airplanes, to glue airplane parts together. Back in the day, they would still rivet and weld everything together, but gluing had a lot of promise to be a better way of doing that. So he was tasked with developing this glue. So in the process, he tried all kinds of different experiments, and he turned out that he found he never really made the strong glue that he was looking for. But he found something. He found a glue that was extremely terrible. Like it was sticky, but it actually didn't hold anything together. So his product was by all means a complete failure. Spencer Silver, however, he still believed that he was onto something, and he didn't want to give up. So over the next 5 years, he kept developing this idea, and he had this solution for a problem that nobody knew about. So, but it was a complete, the product was a complete failure. So then enter Art Fry, a co-worker from him at the 3M Corporation. And Art he sang in a choir, and he had a hymnal, and he had pieces of paper in there to keep the pages, like so where he would have to flip to. And these pieces of paper kept falling out of his hymnal. At that time, Art had an aha moment. He went like, hey, wait a minute, Spencer has this terrible glue that he invented. What could we do with that? Could we make that into a tiny little piece of paper that stick to a page, but also could be removed again? And that was the birth of the Post-it notes. So a complete failure, but they learned from it. And when it was launched in 1980, the first iteration of the Post-it notes were launched to the market, and right now it's an $8 billion market per year for 3M. They sell $8 billion of Post-it notes around the world every year. So in other words, why do I tell the story? It was a complete failure, but they learned from it, and they used it to their advantage. So on a bit more of a talking about failure, I have to bring up this story. And Donald Trump was at McDonald's, right? Like in 2015, I was at Tim Hortons already in Pernova, so I was way ahead of him. They honestly don't make those windows really for people like myself. I was hitting my head all the time, but. In 2015, I ran in the provincial election, so I had this idea that I would, please don't hold this against me, don't throw anything at me. Hopefully this is all settled by now. But I thought I had a chance to represent the people of Lacombe and Oka. I thought I had reasonably good connections, I had reasonably good leadership skill. I thought myself I checked all the boxes. But I ran in this election, and those 30 days. First of all, it took me a year and a half to get here to become the candidate, so that was all good. But then when the election was called, the 30 days in the campaign, they were probably the most difficult 30 days of my entire life. The negativity, social media was already in 2015. They had social media already. My family, my kids would go on Twitter. And I could see it on their faces, what they were saying about their dad, and it really affected them. And yeah, it affected me for that reason as well. So it was a terrible, terrible thing for me, but a huge learning opportunity, and that's why I'm bringing it up. I learned so much. I learned so much about myself, but also I learned about anything that I go through after this. Seems easy, I run into obstacles right now, but. My mind always goes back to these 30 days and go like, Peter, this is nothing. This is a walk in the park. So again, for my personal life, I've kind of turned that failure. I was a complete failure as a politician. I came in third. Nobody cares who comes in third, right? But I'm happy about it, and my wife's even happier about it, I think, still. But again, it was a failure, but I think I turned it around for the better. So I want to encourage you, if something like that happens to you, you get into a situation, you can always turn it into something good. So, be persistent. Like if it doesn't work out the first time, just keep on going. So we talked about the importance of getting going and why it's important to just get started without having everything lined up and perfect. So now we're getting to my third point, and that's kind of finding your why. And I think finding your why you do something and why you are getting into a business, if you can find your why, you can actually handle any kind of difficult situations much better if you have a strong why. So the first why for a lot of people is financial reward, right? If you work for wages, you only have so many hours in the day. There's a limitation to what you can earn, okay? Now, some people do really well with making a wage, but there is definitely, it's not scalable. There's only so many hours in the day, right? So with a business, technically, there's more income potential. I think that's why a lot of people are maybe taking the entrepreneurial path. However, if I again think back about my own career, my own path, the first couple of years were definitely not super profitable, right? We did fine, but sometimes it takes a while. It may take a couple of years before you actually get up to speed and actually start making a similar wage what you would make in industry. So this is my path. I'm not saying it's the only path. Okay. A lot of my friends now start to retire, and they had corporate jobs, right? Maybe at Nova Chemicals, I don't know. But they have the pensions, they have all that stuff taken care of, right? So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if deep down in your heart you have this dream or you have this desire, and you haven't acted on it, I think I want you to prevent that. I want you to act on it and actually at least lean into it. Sometimes people go into business and it turns out it's not for them, and that's okay too. And you can go back to a different scenario. So financial rewards is important. If you have a passion for something, that's really important as well. If you like what you're doing, you actually are excited about going to work every day. I think that's really important. That's a lot easier to survive every day. And yeah, for me, my passion has been from a very young age has been business and marketing. And I took a little prop along here, and when Liddy sees this book, she's probably going to laugh. But when I started dating my wife, Liddy, we would go on camping trips, and this is the book that I took along. Now it has a weird title because it's a different language, but it's the Principles of Marketing. So we were sitting at the lake, and I would be reading this book, studying this book, while I was supposed to be camping with Liddy. So. But I mean, in other words, like I had the passion for it, and that's kind of what you gravitate back to that what you feel strongly about. A third reason why people start businesses, they think they have a better way of doing things, right? Maybe you find a better way of welding things. You may find a better way of selling real estate, or whatever it may be. Have you found a better way of selling real estate, Mike? Yeah. But that's another reason. So these are some things that motivate people to actually get started, but also keep going when things get tough. Okay, so in conclusion, so again, we talked about those three things, and I want to make sure that we have time for questions as well. So start before you're ready, super important. Embrace failure, and then find your why. And if you have any indication, you have this little gut feeling or something in your heart that you feel like, yeah, like I want to pursue something, I want to encourage you to actually do it. Listen to that little voice, and then see where that leads you. So with that, I am absolutely curious to find out what your questions are.
Thank you for bringing up the why. Start with Why is one of my favorite books. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Questions. Kenny.
What was your biggest challenge
biggest challenge? I think believing in myself. Really, you know, like I don't know about you, but I always kind of feel inadequate whatever I do. It just it's kind of baked into us, right? Unfortunately. So yeah, confidence, like to actually like say, yeah, like I have a good product, I can serve this market, but then talk to people about it. And actually, like I said, our very first sale, the $10.70. It was a huge relief for me because all of a sudden I go like, okay, I am good enough actually to offer this service, and people are willing to pay me for it. So yeah, that's in my life. That's probably been one of my biggest challenges. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes.
Would you consider running again for provincial election?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Would you consider running for election again?
Well, if you guys would vote for me, I would. I can't answer the question. Right now, I'm good. I'm very busy building this little business and yeah, serving clients, and I feel it's a good fit. But yeah, you just never know, right? But yeah, Mike.
How did you get your funding to start your first business?
Oh, yeah, good question. So yeah, we didn't have the suitcases full of $100 bills, right? I told you that. Like the way I explain it, like we came here with nothing, and we still have most of it left. But anyway, yeah, like the funding came from savings, right? Like we had both worked for a couple of years, so we had tiny little bit of savings, and of course that was all. Yeah, that's how we kind of started. The first business I started was really. I started extremely small. I started out in my basement. So the investments was like big for us, but actually it's kind of insignificant in today's terms. But yeah, you have to have some cash, guys. So if you don't have it yourself, you have to rely on your family sometimes, right? Or you have to rely on other sources. But yeah, you have to start with something. So depending on your business as well, if you start a business like a restaurant or an entertainment center, you may have to invest like 500,000 million, like in today's terms, of course. You may have to invest millions of dollars right from the get-go before you get any revenue. Those are not my kind of businesses, generally speaking. I like to start smaller. I worked in service-related businesses most of the time, so it all depends what you want to do. But yeah, you do need to have some cash to get started. Yeah. And if you just arrive here, I'm not sure if anybody else, we have probably a few more immigrant stories in this room. When you come to this country, like in '93, I remember that my aunt had to co-sign for my checking account. And we're actually putting money into the account. We actually didn't even get a loan at first. So, in other words, we had zero credit history, and they didn't know us. So it was tough. Yeah, we really had to work hard on getting that in place. So. Yeah. Eric. Oh, sorry.
Sir, quick question. You mentioned buying property or real estate. We see the current state of that. You know how expensive it is for us young people. What investment or what path would you say us as young people, maybe we don't have data, but what's a good market to go into right now?
Yeah. Oh, good question. I'm not an expert. The experts are sitting there with the Montreal Canadiens too. But I'd say to you, buy your first house, just like we did back in the day. And I know it's hard. Like I'm not saying it's probably more difficult for you guys than it is for us now, but it still can be done. Like our kids, two of them have bought properties now, and they were able to qualify for it. I think that's the best move overall for your own financial, stability is to own your own house at the very basic level. So I know that takes money, but I think what I sometimes see, I think with people in your generation, and you guys of course are the exception. Sometimes, like our first house was a very moderate place, right? I don't want to call a piece of something, but it was definitely a starter home, and we had to completely gut it and work through it. And so we put all the sweat equity in it to get it done. Now sometimes I feel like people want to move into a brand new house that has everything, and it's nice. I agree, but that's sometimes not really reality. So, yeah. Thanks for the question.
So I just want to ask, from the marketing perspective,
Okay.
you did mention that while camping, you were still reading about marketing. And I think I'm on your website and I see that you say that you help your clients implement a 7-step small business marketing system that has proven to produce results.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess as one of the benefits of being here for Business Speaker Series, if you can share with us at least 3 for free. Very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm saying, so out of the 7 steps, can you share with us at least 3 or 2 of those small business marketing steps that have produced results
Okay.
for your clients over the 25 years of experience?
Okay. Business. Great question. So yeah, you're going into my my area of expertise, if it's marketing. So I'd say and we do a lot of digital marketing, like most of the marketing and advertising has gone online, right? We all know this. My old business was a sign business that was old school, like signs on trucks and billboards and all that. That's still very valid, I believe. But when it comes to digital, like your website is your #1 asset. You need to own your website. You need to make sure that it's shows up properly online, right? If people cannot find you on Google, you don't exist. I think the second most important thing is content these days, right? Nobody wants to be sold anymore, so they want to receive valuable information from us as businesses, and so we position ourselves as the guide, the experts in the field. That's a very effective strategy. It's hard to pull off, but it's definitely what resonates with people. And then the third thing that I think is really important is to actually capitalize on the customers you already have and the leads you already have, like the prospects you have. A lot of small businesses are, and this could be a completely different presentation, but a lot of small businesses are actually focusing on always attracting more strangers to the business, but don't always think about the people they already have. Their existing clients and leads and people that they've talked to in the past. So, not sure if that helps. Hopefully everybody else was interested in that as well. Eric.
Peter, we have always appreciated doing business with people 35 years.
Yeah.
Trust in the community. I was intrigued when you moved from your previous business to your new business.
Yeah.
Always talked to you about that when you were moving. What made you make the transition instead of keeping something that was very successful, it still is, but you decided to make the change?
Yeah. Okay. Excellent question. Yeah. So Eric has known me for many years, so I do appreciate that perspective, and I appreciate your support as well, Eric and Mike and everybody else that has starting with the $10.70. I think Eric came in fairly shortly after with some work for us, but when I was probably in my 40s, and some people have a midlife crisis. I had my midlife crisis probably really early on. I was doing my MBA, I was finishing my MBA. I run a very successful sign business. I was probably a little bit going too fast and I got to a little bit of a burnout, I think, at that point. And I was looking, sometimes you're looking for just a way out. And for me, at that point, and I'm not saying it was always the right decision that I made in that area, but I decided to, okay, we have a successful building, or business, let's sell the business. And I just finished my MBA, and the whole world was at my feet, right? That's what I thought anyway. Make sure you get your MBA, guys, because you do. But I kind of, if you would ask me, would you do it again, Peter? I would have to really think deep and long about that question. I think so. Like, it really worked out really well in the end. But for a couple of years in between, it was actually really difficult because it's kind of like going in retirement, right? You're busy, 40, you're not retired yet. I'm looking at the person that I had a conversation with earlier. Or even as a farmer, like you're super busy your whole life. You're working 50, 60, 70. My brother John here, you have a 5 to 9 job, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Most people have a 9 to 5 job. He has a 5 to 9 job. So you work really hard. So then to go from that pace and to nothing is absolutely a recipe for disaster. But I kind of experienced that a little bit for a couple of years. I was kind of I was uncertain what to do. When I was 27, I did see no fear. I had no worries. Everything was going to work out just fine. When I was 40, we had built up a little bit of equity and all that. I was way more hesitant, and I second guessed myself, and almost every new opportunity came along. So yeah, it's interesting sometimes how that goes, but hopefully did I answer your question?
Good.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yes.
So you mentioned, about find your why and find something you're passionate about. Do you have any suggestions for these young people who have an idea of something I'd like to do, whether or not that's going to actually be financially profitable or successful, or is it just going to be a hobby?
Oh, exactly. Right. So thanks for the question, Mike. So in my opinion, like if you need to make, if you want to run a business, you have to somehow generate income, or you have to generate money. Otherwise, it's a hobby. Right. So I think if you want to go the entrepreneurial path, you need to find I always like to think in terms of problems. Like every business solves a problem. Like you, Mike, is a computer programmer, software developer. You solve this problem. You solve your clients' problems with, I don't know exactly, reporting and some of those things, right? Yeah. And people recognize that's a problem, and they're willing to pay Mike for solving that problem. Now you have a business. So whatever if you have any ideas about what you want to do, if you want to start a business or do something like that, you need to ask yourself the question, is the problem I'm trying to solve, first of all, does the problem exist? Are there enough people that actually have this problem? And are they willing to pay me to solve that problem? And if you have those three things lined up, now I think you have the beginnings of a business. Without that, you will not go anywhere, right? And sometimes you see people with almost like the 3M story, the Post-it story. It's a solution looking for a problem, right? And in this case it worked out, but in a lot of cases it's tough, right? If one business tip or entrepreneurship tip that I can give you is find a business or an industry that the problem is clearly defined. Everybody knows there's a problem. Right? Plumbing is a good example. The plumbing problems, like if your toilet leaks, that's a well-known problem, and people are searching for a solution, right? Whereas some problems are so niche, you can be so niche. There's only so few people that actually have that problem that can work really well. If you have an online business, for example, now, right? Instead of just focusing on Central Alberta, you can focus on the whole world. Maybe there's enough people in the tiny little niche that actually could be a potential client. So, yeah, thanks for the question. Dr. Michel.
For a young person who is a student, is there a right time to start? What is the right time to start a business?
The right time to start is there's nothing wrong with the path that I see a lot of people take, and I think it's not a bad scenario. If you're interested in a certain industry, go work in the industry for a couple of years. Maybe with in mind that you maybe want to go out on your own, but learn the industry, learn the problem, learn the technology, learn, and then you can apply that to your business. But I see now with a lot of these laptops here, right? People ticking away, and maybe you guys playing games. I don't know, but it looks like you're working.
The presentation is an assignment.
It's an assignment, okay. So honestly, I see so much opportunity right now. It's unbelievable. We live in a time that there's unlimited business opportunities, and why? It's a technology. There's the new technology, like things like AI. The way we're connected these days. Businesses that didn't exist 5-10 years from now are booming. So in your lifetimes, there's going to be businesses out there that we don't even know about yet, right? So do you have to take that path, work for somebody first and learn the trade? In some cases, people skip that step altogether. They just focus on what they want to do, and they just go for it, and they're successful. So there's no one size fits all of that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, I apologize. I wish I could have been here earlier, but I'm just curious. I often hear a lot of your why. I'm just wondering, how did you maintain your identity in your business? Because nowadays we have to have like a story and how you're doing something. Everyone feels like that's the way you can support someone when they have like a story or journey. But how did you maintain your identity in your business?
Okay, good question. So yeah, I think I call it kind of like personal branding, right? Like every business, with all the technology we have, all the marketing, digital marketing tools we have, people still buy from people, right? And people still trust other people. So in my case, for Edge, we have 8 staff, but I'm the face of the company, so to speak, right? So people come to us not only because of me. I don't want to take all the credit. Mainly because of Mark, I think, because he's so good looking. So Mark, my son, works for me now. But honestly, yeah, it's so true. Like, if you go to the market and you advertise your business, like we have the best service, we have the best products, we have the best prices, it absolutely will go nowhere because everybody says that, right? So it's that backstory what you're referring to, and our backstory is, okay, we are for real. Like, we're not flashy, right? So marketing people are really, they drive Ferraris and they just look really cool. We don't. And some people like that. They want to buy from the Ferrari person. They think that's cool. But there's other people that don't. So the people that don't, and that's kind of our niche, they would deal with somebody like us, right? And I think that's really important to keep in mind as well when you run a business. Not everybody is your customer. Right? And the sooner you can find out who your customers are, like we call them ideal clients or ideal customers, as soon as you can define who they are, and if somebody new comes to the door, you can find out fairly quickly if they fit that profile. And if they don't, they are going to waste their time with you because you're probably not the best company to serve them. And they're going to waste their time because they're not going to be happy with the service that you provide. So that's my philosophy. I have fired clients over the years. Respectfully, but they were just we were not a good fit for what they were asking us to do. So there's no point of, it aggravates your team, it aggravates yourself, it's not financially feasible. So there's a lot of things you need to, but it takes you have to be bold, right? Like in the early years, in 93, 94, everybody was my client. It didn't matter what it was, like we would do it because, well, we needed the money, right? But as you build your business, now you start to find out who your real ideal clients are, and then you build a story around that. But thanks for bringing it up because I think that's really really important these days.
It's back to you.
Something I
Yes.
So I want to ask, as a business owner and as an employer, do you think currently in the job market, do you think there is a skill set that is lacking that you think students like us that are graduating should focus on or should look towards?
Okay.
Do you feel like there is that skill set that you're looking for as an employer, that probably if someone is coming to you for a job, you'll be looking for, and if the person doesn't have it, you say no?
Yeah. Are you looking for work? No, good question. Being a college graduate myself, I see a lot of value. Like some people now say, and just being real. Some people say, is it really worth to go get your degree or go to school and all of those things? Why don't you just go learn how to program or learn how to do a skill? Like my thought on that is, like what you're doing here right now, you're gathering you're gathering skills and information, but you learn to think a certain way, right? You learn how to solve problems, and that's really important. Let's face it, like the material you're studying right now is probably outdated by the time you graduate, right? In some cases, but that's okay. So if we take on new people, we're basically, yes, you have a degree or you have a diploma. We're looking for a wide range of people, like marketing people, writers, content writers, graphic artists, developers. Those are all very particular skills. But I feel that if you have the right mindset, right, you have a certain level of thinking, you're a hard worker, and you're willing to learn more, you make an ideal staff member for us, right? Because we don't expect a college graduate to come into our business, because we have a very specific way of doing things and actually start working on that stuff the first day. It's just not realistic. And as a matter of fact, I like it better if people maybe don't have certain preconceived notions about what marketing should be, because if they do, now we have to unlearn some of that stuff. So yeah, shoot me an email.
Any final questions?
Oh, Josh.
You mentioned after you sold your first business that you had a lot of doubts or second guessing yourself. What did you do that kind of helped you get past that? Like, what kept you going to take your next step?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, thank you, Josh. So like I said, and just being real, like that transition between the two businesses, like I want to make it, like during my presentation it sounded really smooth, right? Boom, 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 everything just fell in place. It wasn't really like that, right? So my answer would be the person that's sitting next to you. It's probably my wife. Probably was a very important factor in that transition, because she knew that I was not happy. I was just very very low in self-confidence. I could only see problems. I could not see opportunities. Now again, I can see all kinds of opportunities. Like some days I feel it's bad I'm so busy with this business, because there's so many other things that I want to do. But during that transition, it came down to after a while, Liddy said, "Peter, you're going back to work," and I went like, oh, "Okay," and through the divine intervention or coincidence, I don't know, but at that time, and I just lost the 2015 election, it happens to be another business opportunity that was in line with what I was actually doing. And I still remember Liddy, she told me, "Peter, I don't care if you lose everything," because I said, "Well, what if it doesn't work out?" She said, "I don't care if you lose everything, you're going to go for it. We'll figure it out." And honestly, that was a bit of a turning point, and I started to refocus. I started to see the opportunities, and like over time it kind of worked out. But it was a tough period, because I lost my identity in some ways. Right? You walk out of a business, and not to say that your identity should be wrapped up in your business or in your farm, but in a way it is, especially for guys. Let's be real. So I lost all of that. All of a sudden I felt as nobody. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but that's kind of how I felt. And nobody else really. And Mike, you've been helpful too over the years. Mike Gauci. You've told me several times, "Peter, you care too much what other people think about you." And true, it's very true. Mike, you said once, you said, "Peter, nobody's waking up in the morning and wondering what Peter DeWit's doing." Right? Nobody. So, if you can learn from that, please do, because nobody cares sounds really harsh, but in some ways it's true. There's only very few people in your life that really truly care. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you get into the position, I would definitely, I have a lot of wisdom and I can share it with people on an individual level. If you ever want to buy me coffee, half cream, 2 sugars, I love to talk to you more about that, because I love business, I love people, I'm genuinely interested in other people. I want you to succeed. I think there's no greater satisfaction if you can see other entrepreneurs do well. And when I say do well, it's not only about the money. Just live a healthy lifestyle, good work-life balance, contributing to the community again. I think that's really cool. That's been very rewarding. But before you close one chapter, make sure that what I should have done, I should have actually had some other things lined up before I pulled the trigger on that. But it all worked out just fine, guys. That's why we're here to learn.
Just a good question. What is the share of failure and success in entrepreneurship experience? Is it 50-50 or where do you put it?
Yeah, like the stats are really quite, you need to take it with a grain of salt, I think, but like the rate of business failure is extremely high in the first couple of years, and for various reasons. Sometimes it's bad marketing. People cannot get over, they're very good technicians, they can build something, they can repair something very well, but they just are not able to actually talk to other people, and that's sometimes a problem. Sometimes you have a very successful business, and we have a client right now that is extremely successful. They're so successful that they're running out of cash. And that's a really big problem, right? So there's all kinds of, I don't know what the magic number is. I think if you want to start something, make sure that you have somewhat of a, like I call it a one-page business plan. Like don't start creating like a 50-page plan with all kinds of predictions and assumptions. Like write it down on a piece of paper. And I do have some resources if anybody is interested. Like to really pencil out like what is your plan, what is your business model, what is the problem you're solving, and how can you make money with that. So.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.